Hi, Dr. Deepak. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We've been waiting all day for you, and I'm super excited, joyful, and privileged to have you online with us today.
Thank you. Where are you?
I'm based in Toronto, and we have people from all over the world, from India, from Iran, where I'm originally from Canada, of course, from the US, and from all these different countries. If anybody is from another countries, please put it in the chat box. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Deepak Chopra, one of my heroes, one of the world's renowned figures on integrative medicine, consciousness, success. The first book I read from Dr. Deepak was The 7 Laws of Spiritual Success. I loved it. It was an amazing book. Dr. Deepak has written, I think, 90 books so far. Am I right?
91.
91. Good for you. Total Meditation. Is it out yet, Dr. Deepak?
Next week.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. So the last one I read was Metahuman. So obviously we will be talking with Dr. Deepak about unleashing your infinite potential and the concepts that he has shared in Metahuman. I have a bunch of questions to ask. Of course, there are questions that the audience may want to ask from Dr. Deepak. If there is time, I promise you guys, I will make some time to ask some of your questions from Dr. Deepak. May I start, Dr. Deepak? There you go. Number one, my first question is, of course, I've read the book. It's a very interesting and complicated study, of course, I must confess. What is Metahuman?
Meta means beyond. And human, in this case, refers to the conditioned human mind. So when a child is born, you see the unconditioned mind, full of wonder, curiosity, friendly, smiling, happy for no reason, and amazing imagination. And then we start a process that's called education. And that basically squeezes the identity into the volume of a body in the span of a lifetime. That's called the conditioned mind. The conditioned mind is a result of collective conditioning that goes back to early humanity. So about 30,000 years ago, there were 8 different types of humans. We call ourselves Homo sapiens, which means the wise ones. We gave ourselves that name out of humility. But then we gave names to the other human species too, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, etc. And they all had a rudimentary language for mating, for food, and for danger. But then one species, us, we created a language for stories. And the first stories were gossip. They're still the most common stories. Who's sleeping with whom, who can be trusted, etc., etc. Then that evolved into mythology, and that ultimately evolved into religion, and also into theology and philosophy and today's science. What we forget is these are all human stories, and they're provisional. Every story is subject to revision. But what the story does is it squeezes you into limited possibilities. Like when you started, you said, I'm Iranian. Okay, that's now immediately other possibilities are excluded, right? Actually, everybody's African. 99.9999999% of our DNA, all of us, is from Africa. The rest is climate change, history, economics, all kinds of things. Economic conditioning, religious conditioning, today scientific conditioning. So who would you be if you were not attached to a story? You would be a metahuman because you would have access to infinite stories. Every story you have, there are infinite versions of that. Every thought you have, infinite versions of that. Every imagination you have, infinite imagination. But we get stuck with metaphors. For right now, for example, the biggest metaphor on our planet is a metaphor of violence, war on drugs, war on lack of education, war on poverty, war on COVID-19, war on climate change. And it gets worse, war on terrorism. This is the height of what I would call oxymoronism or stupidity, that we have to solve problems by going to war on them, whatever they are. there are creative solutions to every situation, every circumstance, every relationship, every pandemic, but we are frozen because our metaphor is war, violence, instead of creativity. So metahuman actually means to have pure creativity, pure knowing, pure understanding of what is reality. Reality is existence and awareness of existence. They're the same thing, because if there was no awareness of existence, you wouldn't know that you exist. So you start with that. You start with, I am, before I am Shabab. I am Deepak. I am Israeli. I am billionaire. I am living in the gutter. All those are frozen identities. Go beyond that, you are an infinite being having a human experience. That's what metahuman means.
Very, very interesting. And that's, Dr. Deepak, a very good segue into my next question, which is, you talk about virtual reality and meta-reality in your book. Of course, the virtual reality that you mention in your book is different from virtual reality that Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook talks about.
Actually, but we'll go into that. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So my question is, what is meta-reality? What is virtual reality? And how are they different?
So everyday reality is a virtual reality. Let me explain that. And Mark Zuckerberg's virtual reality, or Elon Musk's virtual reality, or AI virtual reality, or Dreamscape virtual reality, or augmented reality is an extension of the already existing virtual reality. Let me explain that. So when I look at any object, let's say I look at, I'll pick up the book and I ask you, what is this? You say it's a book. If I ask you, what's this? This is a phone, a handheld, device. What's this? This is a hand. What's that behind me? It's furniture. Well, that's a very good human description of a perceptual visual experience. Right now, we're only talking about visual experience. So everybody who's watching us right now is having a visual experience, but they're also having an auditory experience, okay? Ask them, where is the experience occurring? And they'll say, in me. And they might even point to their brain, okay? But actually, there are no colors in the brain. There are no sounds in the brain. There is nothing called experience in the brain. The brain is dark. It's as dark as the screen behind us. Okay, it has no color, nothing of the sort in its intrinsic substance. The brain is dark. There are no images, there are no sounds, nothing. This, in today's science, is called the hard problem. Hard problem of consciousness means we do not know how we experience anything. Right now, everybody's experiencing you, me, in virtual reality space, right?
True.
Correct?
True.
Even this is the same. Why? Because before I call it a hand, let's say you were a baby, unconditioned mind, all possibilities. And you looked at this, what would you see? You would see a color, a shape, a form. And if you place this, you would see that this is a different color, shape, and form. Then, as a baby, your parent comes along and says, this is a hand and this is a phone. Now you've created a construct out of color and sound, okay? All we hear is sounds, noise. Right now, what I'm emanating from here is noise. But we have agreed it means something. That's the virtual reality, because there is actually no noise and no meaning to this, or anything until you give it the meaning. Before that, it's a perceptual experience, and it's a very narrow band of perceptual experience. Visual experience is 1% of the visual spectrum. Auditory experience is 1% of the acoustic spectrum. 99.999% of your body is empty space, even though it looks like this. So what is this? This is a virtual modification of nothing, of emptiness. But we agreed that this virtual modification can be called Deepak Chopra's body. But you say, which one? At one time, it was a fertilized ovum. Another time, it was a zygote. Another time, it was an embryo. Today, it looks like this. Tomorrow, it will look older. One day, it will be gone. So what is this? It's a virtual being. The real being is projecting the virtual being and only 1% of its own stuff, existence. So what I look at as the world is less than 1% of what's out there. When I look at your body, it's less than 1% of your virtual real body. This is a virtual body. And that's true of everything. Now, if you go to other species, like a bat has no experience like you and me. Its experience is the echo of ultrasound. A chameleon's eyeballs swivel on two different axes. What does this computer look like to a chameleon? What does it look like to an insect with 100 eyes? You know, when you look at a rainbow, you construct the rainbow. You don't see the rainbow because you have to have rods and cones in your eyes to have the experience of a rainbow. For those who don't have cones, there's no rainbow. There are many animals that don't have rainbows. So every time you look at the world, you actually construct it and you create a virtual experience. The real meta-reality is that which is projecting itself as the virtual reality. Why is this important? Once you find out who you are, there's no fear of death. All these constructs go away. Birth, death, old age, disease, pandemics, economic viability. These are all virtual domains of everyday reality that we created. There was no money till we created it. There was no Wall Street till we created it. No nation empires till we created it. No latitude till we created it. No longitude, no Greenwich Mean Time. Why do we say Greenwich Mean Time instead of Tehran Mean Time? Because we agreed. We created this. Everything that you experience, if you can see it, touch it, taste it, smell it, imagine it, conceptualize it, it's not real. What is real is the real you, which has no location in space-time, spaceless, timeless, eternal, not subject to birth or death. The rest is a human story. That's it. It's a human story, and it's a very provisional human story. It's not the story, today the story we're saying through the internet and all this is not the story of the Middle Ages. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people still with those Middle Age stories and nuclear bombs at the moment, including gangster leaders all over the world.
Very interesting observation. I actually have bookmarked this page in your book. You write here, painted ladies can taste the leaf they are standing on with the tips of their legs. They smell the air through their antennae and view the world through eyes that possess 30,000 lenses. They hear with their wings. Looking from the outside, we'd say that evolution has created a reality for the painted lady that we barely comprehend. If you want to believe in aliens among us, believe in butterflies. And this is a very interesting observation, and leads us to my next question. You write in your book, your body isn't a thing. Your body is a confederation of senses. It is conditional awareness. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so what we call as the body is a perceptual experience, right? And it's changing. You don't, even if I look at your body right now, when I look at your body, that's a perceptual snapshot. It's taking a selfie. Now, if I take another selfie of yours, it looks exactly the same. But keep taking these one after another for 10 years, and you'll see this one looks very different from this one. So every time I look at you, I don't look at you, I look at the past. Every time I look at you, every time I look at anything, I look at the past. I look at a memory, because by the time I look at you and it registers in my consciousness, or I hear you, it registers in my consciousness, I'm actually looking at the past, not at what is right now, okay? And this is the whole problem, because what is happening right now and in the future is totally unpredictable, 100% unpredictable, which is amazing, because without that unpredictability, there would be no creativity. So right now with the pandemic, everybody's upset because we took existence for granted, right? We said this is normal. This is how life is. Go shopping mall, take your kids to the movies, fly in jet planes all over the world. Now suddenly this is taken away and everybody's upset because this was not predicted, right? But actually you can't even predict the weather next week. You can't predict the economy next week. You can't predict anything. When you understand that 100% unpredictability is equal to 100% creativity, then you'll be a metahuman. Otherwise, you'll be stuck with these concepts, which actually, as I said, not only frees us into the volume of a body in the span of a lifetime, but frees us from infinite imagination and creativity and solution of every single problem that humans define, because even the problem is a human construct.
Wow, very interesting. This reminded me of the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. He always talked about, which Wayne Dyer are you talking about? Is it the Wayne Dyer right now that you're seeing, or 30 years ago? You have shared very controversial ideas in this book, Dr. Deepak. I'd like to ask you to expand on one of them. You mentioned at some point in the book, you don't believe in Big Bang. You write, universe is grounded in consciousness. Can you expand on that?
First of all, even though we use the word Big Bang, it was neither big nor did it bang. So what we call the Big Bang started with the dot, which is smaller than the period of an end of a sentence. Now the universe extends 48 billion light years, 48 billion light years from where you are sitting and I'm sitting. So it will take 48 billion years for light to come from what we call the cosmic horizon to where we are. And it all started with something that was neither big nor bang. Now, if you ask cosmologists, where did the Big Bang occur? Which location? They can't give you an answer because there was no space before the Big Bang. Okay, now we say the Big Bang occurred 14 billion years ago, approximately. But when the Big Bang occurred, there was no time. So what do we mean by saying 14 billion years from planet Earth, a speck of dust in a mindless void, presumably, in the junkyard of infinity? Planet Earth is not even one speck of dust in all the beaches of the world. And here we are, like little microbes, not even the equivalent of COVID-19, speculating about the Big Bang, when in fact there was no space or time. So everybody has an explanation. You know, somebody said God created the universe. Allah created the universe. Jesus Christ's Father created the universe. Hindus, all these Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, they created the universe. Ein Sof created the universe. Okay, you know, that's your story. And Big Bang is the latest scientific story supported by something called, you know, cosmic inflation, eternal inflation, and, you know, what we call the cosmic microwave background, all human constructs based on present moment perceptual experience, which tells you less than 1% of what's going on. So, you know, this is hubris. There is no cause that humans can come up with that describes the mystery of existence or even the awareness of existence. No cause. But we can make up anyway, just like we made up Wall Street, just as we made up money, just as we made up latitude and longitude. So, you know, we can make up anything. We can embed ourselves in it. We can say it's true. Then it becomes true for all of us, just like the dollar is true for all of us, which doesn't mean that it's true. What is true is we have no idea why there is existence, nor do we have any idea why we have awareness of existence. Because without awareness of existence, there is no existence. So the only good response to all this is gratitude, humility, and celebration of existence. Nobody's celebrating existence. They're basically mourning COVID-19 when they should be celebrating existence. Once you start celebrating existence, it opens the door to abundance, to gratitude, to mystery. And so when I say everything is grounded in consciousness, it's a very simple argument. The Big Bang theory is in consciousness. Money was created in consciousness. Wall Street was created in consciousness. Time was created in consciousness. Your body, or what you call your body, was created in consciousness. Your mind is a modified form of consciousness. You can't get behind consciousness.
Very interesting and so true. And of course, it's, at least for me, it was very a complex idea, a complicated idea to comprehend. But that's the point. You get imprisoned in the way you look at the world, your virtual reality, as you call it. And when you want to transcend that and you want to look at the things outside of your box, if I may say, then it gets really difficult.
But wait a minute, Shahab. Now we can extend this virtual reality. There are people who are called synesthesia. So they look at a color, but they experience a taste. Or they taste a strawberry and they find an object that corresponds to that in 3D space, which means our sensory apparatus is entangled. And VR and augmented reality is already doing that. So let's say you are in a dreamscape or you're in a VR and you are being exposed to a very scary scene in the VR. Your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up, your platelets get sticky, adrenaline goes up, you get a heart attack. Let's say. Scary scene in VR. Why does all this happen? Because your heart and your brain is part of the VR. This all one unified experience. So that actually in 5 or 6 years, you may not need to go to a doctor anymore. You go to a VR session to correct whatever is wrong in your VR body.
Very interesting concept. I'm trying to comprehend that, but makes sense. What you're saying absolutely makes sense. So, Dr. Deepak, you mentioned at some point in your book, and I've heard it from other world leaders, consciousness leaders before as well, that you are the author of your own story and at the same time, the actor in it. What does it mean? You are the author, the director, and at the same time, the actor.
Yeah, you're the author, director, you're the producer, you're the choreographer, you are the villain, you're the hero, you're all the characters in your story, actually. But you don't realize it until you kind of become a witness to your own story. Okay, what in many Eastern traditions, that story is called karma. Karma means past experience and how we interpreted that, which is our story. So your body is your karmic story, and everything you experience is also your karmic story. Now, every day you play multiple roles in your story. For example, I'm a doctor, that's one role. I am a son, that's another role. I'm a husband, that's another role. I have a business, that's another role. I'm a father, that's another role. Actually, I'm an author. It's my destiny and your destiny to play an infinity of roles. But the problem is you confuse yourself with the roles you play. Now, if you were a great Shakespearean actor, one day in the old days, when Shakespeare was alive, men, women, all played all kinds of roles. So one day you could be Cleopatra, the next day Julius Caesar, the next day, whatever, Romeo, Juliet. Now, as a good actor, you want to get into the role, but you also know that you're not the role, because if you get into the role, you'll be stuck with that role, right? And then there's no possibility of any creativity whatsoever. You're Romeo for the rest of your life, even now, though you look like a 90-year-old senile person with Alzheimer's. Okay, but you're stuck with that role. Okay. This is what I mean. You should play the roles well. It is our destiny to play an infinity of roles, but we're not the roles we play. One day I'm a child, the next day I'm a father. One day I'm a sinner, the next day I'm a saint. One day I'm divine, the next day I'm diabolical. So the great wisdom traditions say, you're not the roles. The sinner and the saint are merely exchanging notes. The saint has a past, the sinner has a future. Let it go. Just enjoy the role you're playing right now, and then look at the next role you're going to play. That is freedom. Otherwise, you're stuck in karma, which is a word very frequently misunderstood. It means being stuck in the role. You know, Rumi, the great Persian poet, he says, why do you stay in prison when the door is wide open? So that's what he's talking about, the prison of the role you're playing.
Very interesting. Very, very good analogy for us to comprehend the concept. So let's move to total meditation and meditation in general. You mentioned at some point in Metahuman that meditation is the closest you can come to when you see through the virtual reality. So please expand on this. Meditation, how can we use meditation to go past virtual reality and approach the meta reality?
So there are many kinds of meditation, of course. You know, these days, the most frequently cited form of meditation is what is called mindfulness. And by the way, it's a misnomer, because when you practice what they call mindfulness, you're not using your mind. You're using the awareness that looks at the mind. The awareness that looks at the mind is not the mind. So even mindfulness is a misnomer, but we accept it. Okay, so there's awareness practices, awareness of the mind, awareness of thought, awareness of perception, awareness of the body, awareness of relationship, awareness of the ecosystem, awareness of the universe, awareness of mental space, on and on. That's all one type of meditation. Then there is mantra meditations or transcending meditations. Then there are meditations for reflective self-inquiry. Who am I? What do I want? What's my purpose? What am I grateful for? Why does the universe exist? Who asked that we should exist? Why are we not surprised? These are all reflective, contemplative meditation. But what I'm talking about right now is going beyond all this. In total meditation, I showed you the book. I'm saying, how do you go beyond all this? So you realize that if you can see it, touch it, taste it, conceptualize it, imagine it, it's virtual reality, that you are the meta reality that is projecting that. And for that, you need to go to the source of thought, not thought. See, thought is unreliable. Why? Let me tell you why thought is unreliable. I look at the ground is stationary, right? But I know it's not. It's spinning at thousands of miles an hour and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. I look at the ground, it appears flat. I know that's not true. I look at a solid and I know that's 99% of it is empty space. So all my perceptions are virtual illusions, and my thought is interpretation of virtual illusions, and I trust it. We say rational thought, okay? But rational thought is the justification of a perceptual illusion. That's all it is, and its extension. Why do we have confidence in rational thought? Well, because we create technology, and technology extends the virtual reality, and we get bamboozled by that idea that, you know, because technology is extending my ability to do this Zoom call, that must be truth, but it's not. We're just playing with virtual reality all the time. In order to get to real reality, meta reality, you have to go to the source of thought, because the source of thought, which is called pure consciousness, is also the source of imagination and creativity and perception and sensations and images and feelings and emotions. By going to the source, you disengage from frozen virtual reality to infinite possibilities in meta reality. That's why total meditation literally means staying in that meta reality all the time while being aware that you're playing a role. So I'm playing the role of Deepak Chopra, 73-year-old guy with 91 books at this moment. It's not the role I played as a teenager. Okay. Now he said, do you remember every role you play? And my answer is no. Do you remember your 6th birthday? Answer is no. But you had a 6th birthday, right? Everybody who's alive after 6 years of age had a 6th birthday. Doesn't mean that if they don't remember it, they didn't have it. Do you remember your life as an embryo? Do you remember other lifetimes? No. So I never existed. How do you know? Okay, how do you know? Till you tap into meta reality, you don't know anything.
Wow, that's so powerful. I'm looking forward to reading that book. You said it will be available worldwide this week?
in a week. You can pre-order it now on Amazon, wherever.
Fantastic. I will do so today. Very well done. So I'd like to take a couple of questions from the audience, but I'd like to ask you one last question before I do so. There is a 31-day guide at the end of Metahuman, and I love it. The whole book is really made my head spin because it's kind of complicated and the concepts are new. At least the concepts were new for me. But the 31-day guide was very simple to understand and to follow. So can you tell us what it is about, why 31 days, and how is it structured?
The way it is structured, the 31-day exercises in the book Metahuman at the end are structured by taking everyday experience of perceptions. Perception means, 5 senses: sound, touch, sight, taste, smell. But also images, your imagination, your feelings, your emotions, and your thoughts, which is the totality of all experience, and deconstructing that. How does that happen? Once you understand how does that happen, and you realize that in every moment of your existence as a body-mind process, you're constructing reality, and you're participating in the construction of what you call your personal reality, including the reality of your body, mind, and world experiences. Now you start to unfreeze this, what is called fixed reality. See, when I look at furniture, that's fixed reality. But at the atomic level, even that is subatomic particles moving at lightning speeds around huge empty spaces. I'd have to wait a long time, use very special instruments to see that even the furniture is not solid objects, it's perceptual activities. So the 31-day exercise is deconstruct and reconstruct, which is is the process of any creative process. How do you create? Right now, in all honesty, Shahab, I'm reconstructing my physical body. This is 73 years chronologically, but I'm taking it back to the 30s, and I've already made progress in the last 2 years. My biological age is much younger than my chronological age, which means blood pressure, heart rate, immune system, telomerase levels, genetic activity. You can reverse your biological age if you understand that your body is not real. It's made of nothing.
Very
it's
interesting.
Made of consciousness.
I'd love to have another conversation with you at another time about this. Okay, so I'd like to take a couple of questions. We have a few minutes left from the audience. So I see tons of comments in the audience. Just show some love for Dr. Deepak. If you learned something from this conversation so far, show some appreciation in the comments, show some love for Dr. Deepak in the comments. The comments keep coming in. Okay. Very interesting questions here. Lots of appreciation for you, Dr. Deepak. So there is this one question which I found really interesting. By the way, there is someone from New Zealand. Amazing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay. So I can't find the specific question, but the gist of the question was, one of the folks online watched your interview with Dr. Phil, I guess, and an individual from the audience asked you some question, and you replied that you're not experiencing transcendence. You have a bipolar disorder. The gentleman online who is asking this question is asking, are they mutually exclusive? Bipolar disorder, transcendence. How do you speak to that?
I think that's a very good question. There's a thin line between sages, psychotics, and geniuses. Okay, and those are the people you should hang out with. The rest are bamboozled into social constructs. And there is a thin line. They're not mutually exclusive. The difference between somebody who is suffering from bipolar psychosis and an enlightened being, or somebody taking LSD or some hallucinogen, depends on their fundamental state of awareness. The psychotic may buy into the experience as the most fundamental experience of reality and get scared by it. Just like somebody taking LSD can have a bad trip. Okay, but the sage, the person who's been practicing spiritual disciplines throughout their life and understands meta realities, knows that these are all projections of the mind, all of them, including what we call the rainbow and the Milky Way galaxy, are all projections of the mind, and that actually we can learn different kinds of to project different realities. Sometimes in intense meditations, you are, which I've done, you go to a dark room and you're not exposed to anyone for a whole week. You don't read books, you don't listen to music, you stay away from social media, you're totally in a dark room. And some people start seeing visions, hallucinations. And they say, oh, this is a hallucination. But actually, if you understood the mechanics of hallucination, you would understood the mechanics of how we create everyday reality, which is a collective hallucination.
Are you alluding to the fact that taking hallucinatory trips could be a good idea in order to experience meta-reality?
Yes, for some people. I have a whole chapter in Metahuman on psychedelics. So for some people, yes, they can save their lives. They can. Some people with suicidal depression and all kinds of things will be cured with one hallucinogenic trip, which is not, I'm not saying that everybody should be tripping on LSD or ayahuasca, but there's a role for all of these modalities under guided specialists, shamans or therapists.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. Okay, another question from the audience is, you got people's attention when you talked about decreasing your biological age. Maybe we need another conversation on that, but can you briefly explain what is that?
Okay, so just watch me for the next few years. Okay, I'm putting this out in the public. Watch me right now. Now go on the internet and look at my photo from 10 years ago. Okay, and then go on the internet, look at my photo from 20 years ago. And now look at this, and then watch me now on the internet, and every day I post something or the other, 10 years from now, and see what happens.
Very interesting. So just curious, is it through meditation or is it a combination of different things?
It's actually understanding that my body is not made of anything physical. It's not matter, not energy, not information. My body is made of pure consciousness. And pure consciousness means it is made of nothing. It is infinite possibilities, infinite creativity, infinite forms. If something is formless, it has the potential to take on any form. Now, anybody practicing yoga knows, in yoga they say this is downward dog, this is upward dog, this is the elephant pose, this is the camel pose, on, because shifting internally in consciousness actually changes the experience of the body. So you asked me in the question, actually I do 3 hours on meditation of death every night. Death of my own physical body, because I have to create a new body, I have to let the old one die. So, so I practice death of this body, and then I practice the emergence of another body. But of course, I do yoga, I do exercise, I watch my diet, I don't take myself seriously, I don't get offended, and I enjoy, celebrate life. That is the key. Be like a child, and every child always says infinite possibilities. Even if they may not say that, they think that.
Very interesting. And it's so true. Even by looking at you, we get so much joy. And thanks for being you. You're an amazing individual. So very interesting comment in the chat box. Sylvia is saying the body has memory, but not always. She's saying that I'm bipolar from Sweden, now in Mexico. No lithium, no medicine. I have a feeling I have allergies to medicine. And very interesting observation, comment.
By the way, what she's saying is quite true. Okay, what she's saying is quite true. The fact is, do not label yourself. The moment you label yourself, whatever, bipolar, psychotic, even genius, you're stuck with that definition. To label yourself is to limit yourself. So, if somebody asks you, who are you? The only good response is, I'm grateful for existence and I'm infinite possibilities.
Very interesting. Kathy is saying, Dr. Chopra, my dad is one of your greatest fans. He has read most of your books for more than one time and talks about you all the time. Anytime I want to buy him a present, my first option is your books. And you can buy 91 of them, right, Kathy? Very interesting. Okay, before I let you go, Dr. Deepak, I'd like to ask you one brief last question, and that is about any specific announcement, any specific thing you want to share with our audience today online.
There are a few. So the Total Meditation is coming out on the 22nd of this month, so you can get it now if you pre-order it. But I'm also launching a new app. It's called Chopra, and it's a total well-being app. And then finally, for those of you in the US and Canada, the 28th of this month, there'll be a PBS special all over the United States and in Canada and Toronto and as well, because you see PBS there, on Metahuman. It's called Being Metahuman.
Wonderful. Congratulations on the publication of your new book. It's been a privilege, honor, and joy to have you. This honestly was one of the best conversations that I have ever had in my life. So thank you for the experience. Thanks for being you. Thanks for being here. And any departing thoughts before you go?
Shahab, this was a very nice interview. You were amazing. You asked so many interesting questions, which lead to more questions. And, you know, the last comment I have is we never have answers. We only have questions. But if you live the questions, somehow life moves you into answers once in a while. So keep asking questions. That's the only important thing in life. And the last question I have for you is, can we post this interview after you've done it on our social media?
Absolutely.
Permission, we can expose another 15, 20 million people to this interview.
That would be awesome. I will definitely get in touch with your office about that. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Deepak. Take care of yourself. Bye.
God bless. Let's be younger, all of us, till we disappear into an orgasm.
Absolutely. We will. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Attention.